Just create a course. That's what they say, right? Especially if you're getting older, 40, 50 and over, take everything you know and turn it into a course. We are going to dispel that myth today. I'm going to show you what I think, not forget that, not what I think, what I know is a better way because I've been doing this for 25 years. So if you're 40, 50, 60 and over, for now, let's forget about creating a traditional quote unquote course. There is a better way, there's a faster way, there's an easier way, there's a more profitable way. And I want to show you at the end a real world example that I just did that was actually a six-figure launch internal without creating a course. So here's what they say, right? The old, what do they say? The quote unquote experts teaching you how to create courses. What's really funny about it is most of them have never actually created a course outside of teaching how to create a course. They make money creating a course, teaching you how to create a course, but they've never built one in fitness. They've never built one in personal development. They just kind of teach theory. So what they say is, oh, just create a 6, an 8 month, a 1 year course all about your passion. What do you like? What do you love? Turn it into a course, right? And charge $2,000 or $5,000 for that. People are going to pay. Sounds good in theory, right? And then just put it on your website. Write some sales copy, easy peasy, put it on your site, and the sales just roll on in. You know, if you sell a $5,000 course, if you just sell one a day, that's a $2 million business. It's just not reality, right? No one in the world wakes up. No one. Like, you don't wake up and say, gee, I want to buy a $5,000 course today. It just doesn't happen. And we market it like that. And they say, oh, my course about this, my course about that. And they keep talking about course, when it was different. Look, it was different 20, 25 years ago when people were starving for information. There's information everywhere. You could spend enough time on YouTube. It's not about buying a course. It's about having the information delivered in a real, straightforward, pinpoint way that feels like it's giving me a lot of value. So good luck, as Rodney said, right? Good luck with that way of just packaging up everything and trying to sell it for $5,000. I have embraced this idea of what I've coined micro cohorts. And on the first wave through, delivering it live. Now, these micro cohorts, the way I define them, here's some really general guidelines for it. It's a short live cohort training program. So meaning you take a specific group of people through your program. And it could be 3 people, it could be 5, it could be 50, it could be 100. My latest one had well over 100 people. They're short. That's why they're micro. They're 1 week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks. I like them shorter. And I've been experimenting for the past 2 years, really ramping them up. I mean, I'm doing 2 micro cohorts a month. I started them at 6 weeks. Then I went down to 4 weeks. I wanted to see what the conversions were, polling my audience, went down to 2 week. I'll do 1 week cohorts and some really interesting data I'm finding out, but the shorter ones are working very well. They're also highly niched. So for example, it's not a micro cohort on grow your small business or be happy. They have to be very specific with a problem you solve, right? There's got to be some sort of problem, some kind of goal that by the end of this, everyone in your micro cohort has something they achieve. It could be losing 5 pounds. It could be making $5. It could be repairing their relationship with their spouse. It could be anything, but flipping their first house. But there's got to be something, some kind of goal that everyone works towards. And these generally tend to be mid to premium priced, and that's going to depend on your market and your niche. If you're helping people who own hedge funds how to raise another $1 billion, you're probably going to charge more than how to grow a really nice garden that your neighbor's going to be jealous. It's probably going to be different price points. But in general, lower end is going to be 99 to like 299. Mid is going to be 299, like up to about 1,000. So anywhere in that range, right? Depends, again, your market and what your promise is. The more on the harder topics, meaning return on investment, the stronger things where they're going to make money back, you're going to charge more. The more hobby stuff, the softer topics, personal development, it's usually going to charge a little bit less. I discovered the power of a micro cohort way back in early 2000. I had already started my first membership site for strength and conditioning professionals. This was it, sports specific. It was going really, really well. I was running that for a couple of years, and it was inexpensive. It was like $50 or $60 a year, thousands of members. And then other strength and conditioning professionals, this was really early on. They said, Ryan, that's amazing. You're building this online business, and this wasn't done at the time. They said, could you teach me how to do it? Absolutely. So I'm like, okay, well, how do I do it? And I didn't want to do a live in-person event at the time. I said, let me do it as a live cohort. They weren't really called that then. This was before video. This was before Zoom. This was before YouTube. People didn't have the bandwidth, the physical digital bandwidth to do video. So I did a teleseminar, and it was a telephone line. It held up to 100 people, and I charged $199. And it was a 3-day. It was 3 evenings. It was like 8 to 10 p.m. And I did it at the time. It was 3 nights in a row. I think I did it a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I said, there's only 100 spots because that's all the teleseminar line held. And I sold it out in a couple of days. And this is what it was. It was teaching my fellow strength and conditioning professionals how to do the same thing, how to build your business, especially online. I was able to charge 5 times more than the price of a membership because the membership was teaching them strength and conditioning skills, how to teach your athletes to run faster, to jump higher, right? Not as high a value as how to build your business, which is why one was $50, $60 a year, one was $200 for 3 days. But I couldn't believe that 100 people would pay the $199 and how quickly it sold out. And it brought in almost $20,000 in 3 days. This was early 2000, like 2001 or 2 or something like that. And it was the most money I ever made. I mean, I used to make $26,000 when I worked in the children's hospital. So it was almost a year's salary in 3 days. It was shocking. It still is a lot of money, right? I'm not, 20 grand. No, it's still a lot. But it was shocking how well it worked. And I was hooked. And I've run 90% of my training programs since then like that. And I want to show you what it looks like now. And by the way, if you want to learn more about this stuff, besides liking and subscribing to my channel, just write cohort below. I'm going to put together a little report about micro cohorts. Just write cohort below if you want that. Now, here's why I like a micro cohort more than a traditional course where you do it and you put it up and then hopefully you sell a lot. Besides, and I just realized now I did these slides. I realized one of the biggest ones, which I didn't include, is you get paid before you create. Okay. So coming back here, right? I had charged the $199. People paid online $199 before the course happened, right? It wasn't pre-recorded. I recorded it live, like live before a studio audience. I recorded it live. So I got paid before I even created it. So that's a big, big benefit rather than sitting around for 6 months creating it and not knowing if people are even interested. Because you can create a micro cohort, open it up. If you get no people, okay, then you don't run it. Or maybe you do and you act like it's live, but at least you're not spending 6 months doing something and be like, well, why is no one buying this? They're much easier to create, right? Because you're not building out a 6-month course. You're not spending 6 months building it, 9 months. It's frustrating talking to someone and they're like, Ryan, I'm struggling. Here's my course. I look at it. I'm like, oh, it's the wrong match. It's not right for your market. And they said, well, I spent 10 months building it and I haven't made any sales. So these are really easy to create because they're shorter, right? You can create this over 2 or 3 classes, 2 or 3 hours. It's also easier to manage because you don't have so many issues with usernames and password. You could do this live. You don't even need a lot of tech, right? You could do this all live through Zoom. You could do it through YouTube Live with a secret link. So it's much easier to manage a smaller live group, a live cohort, than it is to have this course and run and open and close and all these other factors that go into preloading a course. It's easier to consume for the customer, right? The person buying, because they're not now saying, oh man, I have to set aside 6 months. You might look at that as a benefit. You might say, hey, I have a 12-month course, and you think it's amazing. And the person looking at it saying, I don't want to spend 12 months. And I've told this story before. I don't want to harp on it. I had another video where I talked about it, where I had a student who, she came to one of my events and there were like tears in her eyes that she didn't sell any of her courses. And it was a $500 course. It was how she basically had to beat cancer, like this terminal cancer she was diagnosed with. And she showed how she overcame it. And she said, I don't understand what's going on. I looked at it and it was like a 6-month course. And I said, but if someone has this diagnosis, how long do they have to live? She said, sometimes they only have like 4 weeks. I'm like, so do you think they're going to want to wait 6 months? She's like, yeah, but it's more value. You know, I, you've, you have to put yourself in their shoes, and people would much rather consume something over 1 or 2 weeks than a year. So it's easier for them to consume. There's built-in scarcity, meaning I'm doing it live over the next 2 weeks. And if you don't join now, you can't do it because then it ends. So there's built-in scarcity. You ever go to a site where someone has a countdown clock? This course closes in 10 minutes, and then you come back the next day and it's like down to 9 minutes. You lose all trust. That's called fake scarcity. And that's what a lot of old school marketers still do. They use that trick. They think they're fooling us and they're not. And it just destroys all trust. However, when it's live, it's built in, right? If you want to go to a Springsteen concert next week at Madison Square Garden, you either go or you don't. But when it's over, you can't go. Same thing with this live thing. If you want to attend live, you've got to join now. Otherwise, it ends. Like, there's nothing fake about this. There's nothing false. There's no lie. It is what it is, which means the biggest reason people don't buy now is because there's no reason to buy, which is why I said earlier, the people who say, oh, course, just do a course and put it on your site. A big reason these courses don't sell is because there's no reason for me to buy now. And what you do is you look at it, you're like, oh, $2,000, $5,000. I'll think about it. I'll come back to it. Right? How many times have you said that? How many times have you been to a site and look at it and you're like, I'll come back. Not now. But hey, this thing starts tomorrow. You're either in or out. Much better reason to join. Infinitely higher conversions, right? These lead to higher conversions because there's a start, there's a stop, there's a group, there's a feeling, there's energy, there's momentum. But that open close, the scarcity is so powerful. And it comes in spikes, your signups. If you have any type of list, even the smallest of lists, your first day, right when you open, is going to be the highest. And then it kind of drops a little bit. It levels for a little while until you're about to close the cart. And then the day before you close, it comes back up. It's like this big U curve, right? Lots of opens, small, 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 kind of flat, and then a big spike at the very end. But the conversions are so much more. I've had courses, and I'll test it, and I'll keep it on my homepage for a month with no scarcity, no open close, just, hey, here's my course. Here's 1% Empire. I'll make like 1 sale in a month. Then I take it down. I run it as a live micro cohort again, 300 sales, right? In 3 days. This also means it's easier to launch, right? You don't have to try to get affiliates and do all this stuff. You could do this internally. And I'm going to do another video about this, but this business is really about one word. This type of business that I run and that I teach, and it's freedom. And it's not having to rely on anyone else to run, build, grow your business. Because unfortunately, everyone is looking out for themselves, right? If you're trying to get affiliate partners, then you owe them and you got to play that game. But if you could just have your list and your tribe and your peeps And you could open a program and close a program, and you don't play games with them, and you don't say, "Oh, this is never opening again," and make like these false claims. Just say, "This is the program we're doing. This is the next micro cohort. We're running it live for these 2 weeks. If you want to join live, here you go. If not, that's cool too." That's it. Like, that's the way I market. If you want to join it, great. If you don't, great. Maybe you'll like the next one. Right. And that's what the beauty of this is, because they're short, they're tactical, they're practical. You could open, you can close, you could run multiple ones. And I've done about 20 or so in the past couple of years. I mean, I've done probably 75 over the past 20, but I've really ramped them up lately because I want to just test and see what's working. So here's a big benefit too. If you run it live, especially the first time, you have instant separation from your competitors and from AI, right? Because you don't know if someone has a whole course that's just generated by AI, but when you're doing it live, there is something to be said about, man, this guy, this girl, they got chops. They know their stuff. I trust them. I'm in. Versus something where it's all pre-done, highly edited, highly scripted. There's a reason I do all of these videos like live, meaning I do this in one take. There's no edits. So I do it as if you're watching live. And that's why sometimes I'll make a mistake. I'll stammer. But what you see is what you get. And there's something powerful about that. There's something where you trust people who do that. Now, can AI in the future look like an exact replica and blah, blah? Yeah, that's an argument for another day. For now, nothing beats live, and nothing's going to separate you from all your competitors who spent 8 months creating a course that is so highly produced and highly edited where people don't necessarily trust it anymore. They don't even know if it's AI. But if you're there and you're live and you're answering questions, you are real. Then kind of jumping off of that, once you create it, so you create it live, then you can recycle, you can reboot it, you can reopen it, and you repeat, right? I just did a live cohort that's recorded. So I ran it live for a couple weeks. I'll show it in a second. I took it down, and I'm going to reopen it again at another time. You could reopen as a complete reboot. This was one program that I did called My Peeps. It was a list building course. When we reopened it, we called it 2.0. We added a couple of new live classes to it. And then you could turn it into full passive income or semi-passive income, where you add a live component to the recording. If you nail that recording, you could use that for years. My one that I showed you before for sports training professionals, I recorded that teleseminar. I sold it as audio CDs. So it was 6 audio CDs in a 3-ring binder. This is really before downloadable stuff. And I sold that for, I don't know, 6, 7 years, thousands of them at $3. It probably brought me about $500,000, maybe more, because you could then resell and reopen, and you could build in that scarcity. If you reopen it as 2.0, hey, we're doing these 3 or 4 classes live. I suggest, though, whatever you're going to do, if you go this route, you have to start with a niche, however you want to pronounce this, a slice of the market. A slice of the market, right? You want to make it so specific that people like, that's what I want. You have to find those gaps. This is not the kind of thing where you're just modeling what other people are doing or copying them and trying to say, oh, mine's going to be a little bit better. You have to differentiate. And sometimes the differentiation is your mechanism, like what it is you're teaching or selling and how are you doing it differently. If yours is just a get fit, hey, here's a 3-week program showing you how to get fit. Okay, but what's different? What's unique? Why am I going to join you and your program and your live cohort? What are you going to do that's going to be different? Is it the way you're doing it? Is it the way you're delivering it? Is it the type of exercise? Is it the type of equipment? Is it the intensity of the exercise? Do you use bands? Do you use kettlebells? Do you use kettlebell combos? Like, what is the differentiator? And let me show you mine for a sec. So this was one that I just ran. Even the name fit into my brand, old school, right? I'm going for people who are 45, 50, 60 and over. And I found my gap was everyone's trying to teach membership sites. I'm like, no, you shouldn't be doing membership sites. You should be doing more PDF driven memberships and PDF driven continuity programs. So that's what was the differentiator of this micro cohort. This was a 2-week program. It was 2 classes a week for 2 weeks. And I went through everything you needed to know about creating recurring revenue with just PDFs, right? I built this all in Kajabi, and there's a link below if you want Kajabi. So one place I have it, and it was two payment plans, either 3 payments of $339 or 1 payment of $995. And that was it, right? And I sold a lot of these. A lot of people came into this, and it was all done as a live micro cohort. Will I open it again in the future? Yes. I can either open it again as old school 2.0, or I could open it as just exactly as is, or down the road, maybe a year or 2 later, I completely redo it. And then you've got to start thinking, okay, well, what do I do for the people who bought the original? You can give them a discount to attend again, especially if there's going to be new material added. So I just want to show you the difference between my very first one, right, and this one, right? Higher price, but the site looks a little nicer. There's better copy. There's a stronger hook for it, but it hasn't really changed or evolved that much, which is good. There's little evolutions and some nuances in doing it now, but it still works. And it's crazy that 25 years later, this model still works. And I like this infinitely more than just doing regular courses, pre-recording, and then dropping. And I want to talk more about this. If you're interested in learning more about this stuff, again, just write the word cohort below. I'm going to put together a report all about these micro cohorts. I love creating micro cohorts. I love teaching micro cohorts. I love building micro cohorts. I did a micro cohort about micro cohorts. Say that 3 times fast. And there's a lot of really cool things you can do with micro cohorts. And of course, if you want to start turning this to recurring revenue as well, watch this next video because there's so much more coming your way. Thank you. I'll see you on the next video.